Director of BIRO. I was looking at your email signature, Steve, and I couldn't list all of the parts on there, but that includes business, industry, and regional outreach. But also, Steve does have a focus on early childhood, health, and education. And I know certainly we've worked with Steve before in the context of an early childhood forum that we ran the end of 2023. So thank you, Steve, very much for joining us. And we've also got Lise Williams from Migration Initiatives, who are a division that are within the Department of Training and Workforce Development. And Migration Services offer a range of programs and services to support migrants in WA. And just noting as well, in the context of, because some of the stakeholders online and some of the focus is on health, we do also have Jodie Holbrook online from ARPRA, who has offered to answer any questions that may be health related that she can assist with. So thank you for joining us, and as I say, thank you to both our speakers. And what I will now do is hand over to Lise to start the presentation.
Thank you. Let me just share my screen first so we can make sure that everyone's seeing the same thing. That would be ideal. Okay, can I just get because I can't see anyone now, can I just get a response that everyone can see the PowerPoint?
Yep, we
the
can
big
see.
screen.
Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. And I will do my best not to cough. I'm recovering from a little bit of a cold, so if I go silent for a minute, bear with me, please. So, yeah, my name's Lise. Thank you so much for having us along today. It's a really good opportunity to get some of the word out about some of the migration initiatives that we have in the state, and a lot of them will be relevant to the business and sectors that you're actually in. So I'll talk through those that are particularly relevant. And then it follows on quite well because we do refer to some visas, and with Steve here from Department of Home Affairs, it all links in quite nicely. So we sit, as was mentioned, within the Department of Training and Workforce Development, and we sit as Migration Services. So we're not an area that is able to provide visa advice. That is still need to be done through someone like a migration agent, but we are here to direct people to resources and to provide some assistance where we can about the different initiatives available. So we do have 4 pillars that we work by. 2 years ago, there was not as many programs as you can see listed there. So with things that have ramped up and, you know, areas of shortage amongst workers, that has certainly changed what we do and what the state is offering as well. So you'll see we're looking at, in the first instance, we look at promoting the state. So getting people here and getting them to want to work in Western Australia and Australia in the first instance. We can then connect people together, so whether it be employers and skilled migrants, then people can migrate, and then the opportunity to, well, the need to retain the skilled migrants once they are here. So we'll go through some of these areas. I won't talk about all of them. Obviously, construction's not important in this audience, so we'll leave that one out for now. So to start with, let's talk. We travel a lot. There's a few of us in the team that get out into the regions, in the country areas, to actually provide some more information and speak one-on-one with the employers at different sessions to talk them through some of the initiatives and see what can help, what sort of subsidies we have, and what other guidance we can give them. So to start with, when you're looking for a skilled migrant, we have now a tool that is quite valuable for employers and the skilled migrants. So it's called our Skilled Migrant Employment Register. It is free to use, and it is there purely for employers who are keen on taking on a skilled migrant. The migrant needs to be here on a temporary visa. So there are some migrants on the register who have their PR, but most of them are probably going to be working holiday makers. They might be on a temporary skills visa at the moment looking for something else. They might be on a graduate visa looking for something. So once you register on that, if you go on, it's like using Seek or similar. You register your business, then you can put your occupations that your vacancies that you're looking for. The system does an automated match, so that if there are migrants on there with those occupations, you will then receive an email that has a list. You go into your portal and you can choose whether you want to connect with a person or whether you don't. You will know whether they are onshore or offshore. Sometimes onshore is a bit easier to work with, but there are opportunities for migrants that are still overseas. And in the first instance, the migrant won't get all of the employer details. So you'll offer them a connection. They will say yes, you'll get a little bit more detail from them, but they still won't be able to contact you directly. It's not until the final step where you want to actually have a conversation or Skype interviews or Teams interviews or whatever it might be with the person. There's been quite a bit of success with that. I had a quick look at some of the areas we had registered. So if we're looking combined community aged care, child education and care, there was approximately 450 migrants onshore and offshore that had registered on the register. And in the employers section, looking around 60, so quite a few. Both the employers and the migrants are verified before their registration goes live. So our team here they do contact the employers, have a chat with them, make sure that the business is legitimate, and they also link with the migrant and look at what documentation they're actually providing. So it makes it a little bit more easier for the employer to see what skills they have. The other initiative that quite a few may have already heard of, especially those that might be in the regional areas today, would be a designated area migration agreement. So we administer the WA designated area migration agreement, or we're going to call it WA DARMA as we move forward. So we administer that on behalf of the Department of Home Affairs. So the DARMA itself is available in regions as well, and there are 4 other active DARMAs that I'll mention a little bit later on. But the WA DARMA was brought into being to cover the rest of the state and to also cover occupations that may not be on an existing DARMA. There are also some concessions involved with the DARMA, which is allowing people to select from a larger pool of migrants. So generally, if someone's applying for a skills in demand visa, there is no age cutoff. But if they're looking to go beyond that for residency, then the cutoff would be 45. So if we look at the concessions available on the WA DARMA, you'll see there that the age concession will increase from 45 to 55 years. So it does open up a bit of a wider pool of availability. There's concessions around work experience. There's also some English language proficiency concessions. Now, this does not apply to occupations that have specific requirements, and that would be health and education for sure. They would still have to meet the requirement of those occupations. The other concession is that those who go through the DARMA process still may have a pathway through to permanent residency. The 4 other DARMAs that I mentioned We have active in the Gascoyne, Goldfields, Esperance, and where's the other one? I've lost it. Kimberley, I think, was the other area. So there are 4 in existence. How it works is if the occupation is found on one of the other 4 dharmas, then we would direct you to access that particular dharma. You would access the WA dharma for occupations that do not fit on the regional dharmas. It's a little confusing, but we can help out if you have any questions relating to that. The other thing to consider is that in the metropolitan area, we have 271 occupations listed, and in regional areas, 358 occupations. On our website, which I'll show you a bit later, there is a tool where you can put in the occupation to find the eligibility of it on the WA Dharma. Accessing the Dharma won't apply for fly-in, fly-out workers, so migrants must live and work in the region where they are actually working. I mentioned already, if it's under a regional Dharma, then we would refer to that Dharma. And also, if the occupation is under an existing industry labour agreement, then you would go through that labour agreement, not through the WA Dharma. One example, though, there is the aged care labour agreement. Now, the aged care worker, there is a difference between the aged care worker, whether they work in an actual facility or whether they work in the home. So if they work in the facility, they would go through the labour agreement. If they're working in the home or visiting homes only, then they could access the WA Dharma. We do have a step-by-step guide that you can refer to on the website. It's reading through step-by-step is a little easier than trying to navigate everything all at once. So we would suggest that you have a look on that first, just to be aware of what sort of administration it will take. So another area is the state nomination. Some people may or may not have heard of. We also administer the nominations for WA. Currently it is on hold, and we are pending allocation confirmation for the next financial year from the Department of Home Affairs. What I suggest, if you know any migrants or are wanting to employ any migrants, direct them to our website to keep an eye on that as to when that all happens again for the next financial year. We have a subsidy. This is more directed at the skilled migrant themselves, but can be useful for employers if they know that the migrant that they are taking on will need to get some licenses or registrations to enable them to work in the job that they're employed to do. So, for instance, if they need a working with children check, if it's a requirement for a police clearance, an NDIS working screening check is another one. And also, if the employer, it is mandatory for a skills assessment from the Australian Association of Social Workers, for example. Oops, sorry, just need to go back one. And can't see the other one there, the Australian Community Workers Association. So they're just a couple of examples. So there may be opportunity just for the skilled migrant to get back a little bit of the funds that they've spent on some of these licenses or registrations that they are required to achieve. Finally, pretty much, we do have settlement services for migrants when they arrive. We work with a number of places like Centrecare in Geraldton. We also have a settlement service in Albany and one here in Perth, which is where our office is, in the Pilbara, Kimberley and Great Southern. And basically the agencies work for us to assist the skilled migrant in supporting them to settle into the community. So for things like how to go and get a driver's license, how to open up a bank account, connecting them with other communities within the town or city that they're working in. And finally, that is our website, QR code there. Very useful tool. There's a lot of information on there, but a good place to start. Then if you want to send any inquiries through, I would say probably the best one to use is the Job Connect email address at DTWD. You can call us option 3 for any of the Skilled Migrant Employment Register or Job Connect queries, 8:30 to 4 p.m. And that's all from me. So thank you very much. I think we'll probably take questions at the end.
Lise, just before Steve starts, I just thought there is one question in here about, and I think it's in regards to the Connect service. A question was asked, does that mean that they need to spend the money? So getting the, I guess, before it's refunded?
Yep. Yes, that is correct. They do need to do the registration or the gap training or whatever it is, the license beforehand, and then submit the claim. Yep.
Fantastic. Thank you. And thank you very much, Lise. And yes, we will try and keep questions to the end, but thank you very much for that presentation. Steve, your turn.
Thank you, Caroline. Let me share my screen just to start. Okay, so good afternoon all. My name is Steve Lanyi. I'm the Assistant Director of Business, Industry and Regional Outreach. Today I'm going to be speaking about the migration program to provide an overview and also talk about some skilled visa options for the sector. So focusing on the aged care sector, healthcare sector, childcare and disability care sectors. I'm joined online by 3 of my colleagues, Sean, Tim and Matt from the WA BIRO team, and we'll be online to answer any questions at the end of today's session. So just to make a start, I'd like to commence by just providing a bit of a sort of broad overview of the migration program in the last program year 2024 to 2025. Most recent data that we have at hand is up to 31st of May 2025, and you can see from the slide there that we have received over 6.6 million visa lodgements through to 31st of May. That's probably closer to about 9.5 million by end of financial year 30th of June, and around about 8.6 million visa finalisations, and that's across all visa programs ranging from tourists and visitors right through to the permanent family and skilled visa streams. So compared to 2023-24, we've seen that's around a 1% increase in lodgements for visas and around about a 2.5% increase in visa finalisations or outcomes for the 2024-25 program year. On hand, in terms of what we have currently in processing, around about 750,000 applications on hand across all visa programs, and that's around about a 5 to 6% increase compared to the same time in 2024, so 31st of May 2024. In terms of the migration program, a lot of the visas that we'll talk about, like the skills in demand visa, is a temporary uncapped visa, so it's a demand-driven program. But when we talk about the migration program, that's the permanent migration settings you can see on the right side of screen there, 185,000 places for the current 2025-26 program year. So the program is actually capped at 185,000 permanent visa places, and that is divided in a 70-30 split in favour of the in favour of the skilled visa stream, 70% and 30% allocated to the family visa stream. So the migration program really is continuing to target skilled migration, which is designed to complement the skills of the existing Australian workforce, meet our changing workforce needs and support economic development and growth across Australia. Sorry if I go the right way. In terms of migration or skilled migration into WA specifically over the last sort of 12 months or so, you can see on that those images there that the highest occupations that we've seen coming in are resident medical officer, chef, mechanical engineering technician and diesel motor mechanic. Further below that, you've got other trades like motor mechanic, fitter, metal fabricator, welder, and so on. So we're seeing a big increase in the healthcare and social assistance sector, a big increase in construction and infrastructure, primarily housing construction, a slight decrease in mining and resources intake, and an increase in the accommodation, hospitality, and food service sector. And in terms of subclass 482, the skills in demand, and previously the temporary skills shortage 482 visa, the top grant countries are at the moment India, with just over 60% growth in visa applicants from that country, Philippines around 27.6%, and the UK at a 5% increase in 482 visa grants for skill. So they're the three primary countries that we're seeing large intakes from at the moment. In terms of migration trends into WA specifically over the past sort of 10 years as a longitudinal kind of representation, this graph is a really good one that I pulled out the other day from our 2023-24 migration program report. On that graph, you can see the purple sort of pinkish colour is the family stream. The light blue colour is the skilled stream, again representing that 70-30 split in favour of skilled. The bulk of people coming into WA from 2013 to the current or previous program year 2023-24 has been primarily skilled, and you can see some data on the right side of that for the 23-24 year. Around about 5,200 employer sponsored applicants came into WA, just over 3,000 regional under the skilled employer sponsored regional and skilled work regional visas, and state and territory nominated, which is a skilled independent state or territory nominated visa, just over 3,000. So a total of just over 15,000 skilled migrants coming into WA the previous year. So that's a good visual representation just to see the sort of trend that we've dropped obviously around COVID 2019, 2020, and that's obviously picked back up substantially, but probably not meeting those pre-boom years of sort of 2011, 2012, 2013 and so on. Now, moving on to talk about some specific skilled employer-sponsored visa options. These two visas on screen are the primary options for employers to consider sponsoring a migrant worker to work in Australia. And this is nationally, anywhere in Australia, some noting the 4094 is a regional specific visa. But just let me run through these quickly for you. So Skills in Demand, or SID for short, is subclass 482. That visa was previously known as Temporary Skills Shortage up until December 2024, when it was rebranded and changed names to Skills in Demand. A few changes happened in December with Skills in Demand. We introduced the Core Skills Occupation List, which is a greatly expanded occupation list of around about 450 occupations. The process for 482 is essentially the same. 1, become a standard business sponsor to access the program. 2, nominate the position itself, which is about the job vacancy within the business. And the third is the visa application for 482 or Skills in Demand. Now, as I mentioned, this is a temporary visa program. The person can work in either metro or regional areas. This is open to anywhere in Australia. There is no age restriction given it's a temporary visa, and the visa has a 4-year validity period. Noting that after 2 years working in the same occupation with the same employer, that individual can then apply for a permanent residence pathway under the Employer Nomination 186 program. The other visa there is the 494 Skilled Employer Sponsored Regional, or for short acronym, it's SESR. Again, the process is the same, 3 steps: become a standard business sponsor, nominate the position itself within the business or positions, and then the application occurs for the SESR visa. Now, this uses a different occupation list or lists, the medium and long-term strategic skills list or MOTSL, and the regional occupation list or role are the 2 that apply to the 494, which is different to the 482. This requires a 3-year work experience requirement plus a formal skills assessment, where the 482 only requires a 1-year work experience component. This visa is specifically for regional areas of Australia, which excludes Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane, but anywhere in WA is considered regional, including Perth, so 494 is open to any business within WA. The applicant needs to be under 45 years of age for this provisional visa, and the reason for that is the age is assessed at the front end. When they apply for the permanent 191 stream, the age of 45 years is not assessed at that PR stage. This is a 5-year visa validity, and the person is eligible for the permanent residence 191 visa after a period of being sponsored for 3 years in the same job with their employer. And under the 494, they may be eligible for both Medicare and local school fees. Here in WA, that certainly is the case. So there's a few advantages for the 494 over the 482 in terms of the individual visa holder may get Medicare and lower school fees. In terms of pathway, this is the main pathway that we see most employers using, the Skills in Demand 482 to Employer Nomination Scheme 186. Just to quickly summarise this, the person applies for the 482, they have that visa for up to 4 years, there's no age restriction, they only need the 1 year work experience component plus skills assessment. After doing the same job with the same employer for that 2 year period, they can then access the ENS 186 permanent residence pathway. This requires the same occupation being done with that employer. They do have a skills assessment. They can work in either metro or regional areas, but they are assessed as needing to be under 45 years of age at the time they apply for 186. So there's two pathways, either 2 years on a 482 in the temporary residence transition or TRT option, or somebody can apply for direct entry to 186, but they do need to demonstrate they've got at least 3 years work experience. So I think there's two pathways, 482 to 186, or somebody can apply for 186 directly if they've got the qualifications, experience and so forth to do so. And we see that a lot with nurses and doctors. They'll apply directly for 186. Some other options just moving forward through the slides. Can your business employ student visa holders and temporary graduate visa holders? Very simply, the answer is yes. So student visa holders are a subclass 500. Students are permitted to work up to 48 hours per fortnight whilst their course is in session. And when they're on semester break or uni break or TAFE break, they're able to work unlimited hours during those breaks. In addition, students who are studying at the tertiary level at a Masters by Research, not Masters by Coursework, has to be Masters by Research or PhD, they are able to work unlimited hours or unrestricted hours, and their family members are also able to do the same. Temporary graduate visas. Temporary graduate visa is a visa for international students who've studied in Australia, they've completed their qualifications onshore, and they apply for the 485 visa to stay in Australia, build up their experience, build up skills, find an employer sponsor, etc. There's a whole range of things they can do, but essentially the 485 visa holder is able to work for any employer in any location across Australia for a period of up to 5 years. That can vary from 18 months for a vocational sector qualification right through to 5 or even 6 years for a regional PhD. So they've got a fairly long period of time to stay onshore in Australia working or trying to find work. So short answer is yes, students and temporary graduates can very much be employed. I'd now like to just quickly move on to talk about the Aged Care Industry Labour Agreement, or ACILA. I'll note up front that this is really for the aged care providers in the room. This does not apply, unfortunately, for disability or childcare. It is only specific to the aged care sector for the 3 occupations on screen. So the Industry Labour Agreement for the aged care sector allows the 482 and 186 visa programs to be used for aged and disability carer, nursing support worker and personal care assistant, only those 3 occupations. And the way that is undertaken is through a Memorandum of Understanding, or MAU, with the relevant, MOU I should say, with the relevant union. So Australian Nursing Midwifery Federation, Health Services Union or United Workers Union. That includes expanded labour market testing and vetting and engagement with aged care sector providers. So as I said, this this aged care industry labour agreement is very specifically, or has been designed with Department of Health, Department of Employment and Workplace Relations, and Prime Minister and Cabinet, specific to the aged care sector. And by the way, I haven't mentioned, but there are obviously QR codes on all these slides. Feel free to take images and they will link you to the relevant web page off our website. In terms of the ACILA step-by-step process, the 3 steps involved. First of all, as I mentioned, it's negotiating an MOU, so the individual aged care provider would negotiate with unions to have a memorandum of understanding set up. That's generally through Health Services Union, United Workers Union or ANMF. Step 2 is requesting access to an industry labour agreement within the aged care sector. That's done through Home Affairs with our labour agreement section. Labour agreement section will assess those based on an IMI account application once that MOU has been established with the relevant union. And the final step is then once that industry labour agreement has been set up for the business itself, then the business is able to lodge those nominations for vacancies they can't fill domestically or locally. They've obviously tried to test the labour market and not been able to do so. They can then lodge those nominations and visa applications using both the 482 skills in demand and the ENS 186 permanent visa pathway. So it has both the permanent and the temporary and also the permanent visa options available after the 2 years on a TSS. So take that back, after 2 years on the skills in demand visa. Lisa's very kindly touched on Western Australian designated area migration agreements, or DARMAs. I won't labour this point too much. As Lise mentioned, we have 4 existing DARMAs: the Kimberley, the Pilbara, Goldfields, Esperance and Southwest region. They operate in each of those bespoke regions to meet the regional labour market and workforce needs and support local business to attract and retain skilled migrants into those regions. Now supported by the new WA State DARMA, which supports the entire state of WA, works in parallel or in concert with those existing 4 DARMAs in the Pilbara, Kimberley, Goldfields and Southwest regions. So all of WA is now covered by a DARMA for either lower skilled occupations, expanded range of occupations, or access to the 482, 494 and 186 visas with specific concessions. Things like age, experience level, English level and salary would be some of the examples of concessions. And just a couple of slides to finish off. This is a really useful tool that we use a lot in our role as business and industry outreach officers. You can search for skilled visas by occupation, and the example there on screen is residential care. So you've got residential care officer as an example there. You can go into our website using that QR code, do a search by occupation, diesel mechanic, registered nurse, etc., and it will show you which potential visas could be considered for that occupation. So it's a very useful tool, a very powerful tool that we use regularly when people say, what visa can I consider applying for my worker who is a X? And then we generally know that, but if we don't, we can have a look if it's a specific role. Vivo, many of you would be familiar with Vivo, or Visa Entitlement Verification Online. It now comes as a very handy mobile phone app or mobile device app, but you can also access it through our website at homeaffairs.gov.au. It allows the visa holder to basically do a print off or determine the visa status. So what visa do they hold? What is the validity period of that visa? So when is it going to expire? And what are the conditions that are imposed upon that visa? The person can do that and show you a hard copy of that. Employers can also access Vivo online with permission of the visa holder to then go in and access their details, determine what visa they hold, what conditions, can they work, can they not work, etc. So Vivo, if you haven't used it, please check that QR code. Very useful tool to be able to check current status of your potential candidates or applicants for roles in the sector. And my final slide, we have a campaign on at the moment called Check Twice, Submit Once. Put simply, this is a very important campaign the department has initiated, really to get full and complete applications. We see a lot of applications, potentially up to 40% of applications in certain visa subclasses, either missing information or having incorrect information, and that results in visa applications taking much, much longer to process. So we strongly encourage both migration agents, visa applicants and employers who are doing employer-sponsored visas to please check your information twice. Go through checklists online using that QR code that you have there. It will walk you through tips to submit a complete decision or a decision-ready application. That way we can get through those applications a lot more quickly than if we have to write a request for further information, seeking additional information, be it police clearance, health checks, qualifications, etc. Where there's missing information, it delays the process and it may even lead to a visa refusal. So we're strongly encouraging people to check their applications thoroughly and then hit the submit button once, not multiple times. And that is it for me. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Steve. There was a lot of information in there, and I'm sure people will still be digesting that. But we do have a couple of questions in the chat. So I think the first one from Narendra, and I think this one's for Lise. So I think it's just some clarification about employees who got skills assessment and occupational licensing, if they can apply for the financial support.
So yes, they can. There are certain criteria and definitions of an approved service, though. With skills assessment, it will need to be looked at to see the purpose of the actual skills assessment. If it's for migration purposes only, then no. If it's linked to employment, then yes, possibly. I'm just going to put the link in here where it goes directly to that definition of approved services. So hopefully that will help people a little bit. But yes, if they've done other things like the trade licenses recently, and it's all a requirement of the position, then yes, they can claim.
Fantastic. Thank you, Lise.
No problem.
There was a question here from Helen, if the slides could be circulated after the session, please. So Lisa and Steve, are you happy for those slides to be sent out to the people who've attended?
Yes, that's fine for me.
From my perspective, unfortunately not, Helen. The reason being is our information is subject to change pretty regularly. I'm happy to send out a fact sheet with some of those QR codes, but slides unfortunately cannot share.
Okay, no problems. And we will attach the fact sheets or send the fact sheets out to people who are online, and we'll also pop them up on our website as well. So great. I think, Susan, you've had your question about employers maybe not doing the right thing. Sean's responded to that online in terms of some worker rights information. Linda, the question about the unions, I'm assuming, Steve, but I'm sure you'll be able to clarify that's because they're the unions that are associated with those occupations?
Yes, my understanding is it is limited to those 3 unions, but if in a certain jurisdiction there may be another relevant union, I'm not sure on that, but I'm pretty sure they need to go through those 3 unions which are specific to the aged care sector only. That's the reason for it.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Helen has commented on the rationale for the 48 hours per fortnight on student visas, and I think this actually came up even during our early childhood workshop. Is there any thought about that potentially changing, or is that likely to remain?
So yeah, that's a good question, Helen. In answer to your question around why do we restrict students to the 48 hours, the purpose of the student visa is primarily for those international students to come to Australia and study. They're allowed to work to obviously support themselves whilst they're here. They've got, expenses, accommodation, living expenses and so on. We do allow them to work. It used to be 20 hours a week. It's been expanded to 48 per fortnight to give a little bit more flexibility. But the short answer is the primary purpose of that visa is for study, not work. So they are allowed to work unlimited hours during breaks, but whilst they're studying, we do restrict them so that their primary focus is on study, not work.
Okay. Yep. Okay, Helen, I noticed that you put your hand up. Steve, are you happy to take a question directly? Yep. Okay, Helen, fire away.
Fine.
Oh, thank you very much for that. Look, I understand. Well, you commented that they have to, to work to survive, and I'm just really wondering how they can survive on 48 hours per fortnight, given some of the work that they will be doing, and given the cost, just for example, of accommodation at the moment. I'm just I have to raise it because I'm concerned about the welfare of the students and also, the risks associated with them, breaching their visa. I'm just curious to know, what research, was done behind this to, I suppose, ensure that 48 hours per fortnight is actually enough for them to survive.
Yeah, thanks, Helen. Sean has just put a link in the chat, which may be of interest to individuals on the call as well. But essentially, much like visitor visas, when people apply for a visitor visa or a student visa, they have to show that they have sufficient funds to be able to sustain themselves in Australia. So it's an expectation from Home Affairs when we grant the student visa that they've actually got health insurance, they've got enough money to sustain themselves, but we do obviously allow them to work whilst they're studying here. But it is an expectation, Helen, that students are going to be self-sufficient when they arrive in Australia to study. In terms of the thinking behind that, how that 48 hours was calculated, that would have been done at a high-level policy sort of level. I can't really make any comment on how or when that was determined, other than to say it's been made a little bit more flexible probably in the last 2, 3, 4 years.
Right.
Used to be a lot more restrictive.
Yeah,
Yep.
thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Steve. Okay, next question. Can we sponsor employees on part-time who've been with us for 3 years?
Yeah, I guess that's one for me.
Yes, I think. Sorry, Steve.
Sorry, I just got distracted there when that question came in. So just to refresh myself, somebody's working part-time, they want to potentially be sponsored. Yes,
so they've been with them for over 3 years. It's just, can we sponsor employees on part-time who've been with us for over 3 years?
They're going to have to be full-time is the short answer. So the visa 482 that I spoke about and the SCSR 494, both of those require the individual to be employed on a full-time basis. So short answer is yes, you can, but you won't be able to do it part-time unless I'm wrong. Oh, sorry. My colleagues, Sean and Tim, are just mentioning, is it work experience or paid work?
Gideon asked the question.
I think Tim's going to jump in here.
Okay, great. If you can respond to that one, that would be great. Oh, sorry, Tim, that's it. Yep, sorry.
I was just going to clarify, if you're talking about whether the part-time for 3 years will qualify for previous work experience, that's fine, as long as that however long they've done the work experience equals up to the required work experience. So I think it's 1 year. But if you're talking about sponsoring someone in the future, basically at a part-time rate, it may not be as feasible because they do have to meet an income threshold on a sponsorship visa, if you know what I mean. So they may not be able to work enough on a part-time to meet the income threshold. So it depends on what you mean by part-time. You know what I mean? Is it part-time before or part-time net going forward?
Okay. So Gideon has actually put paid work. So Gideon, does that answer the question? Part-time before application.
So as Tim was mentioning, they can certainly use the experience that they've got working with the employer for their background when they apply for the visa. But when they apply for the visa, they're going to have to meet things like the average market rate of salary, so same as an Australian worker would get. They would also have to meet the temporary migration skills income threshold of 75,150 off the top of my head. And they are going to have to be working full-time, not part-time.
Okay, great. Thank you, Steve. And Gideon, if you are looking for more clarification, please feel free to put another comment in the chat. Narendra, is the regional Dharma provision valid for only 4 years? What happens after that? Maybe that's a crystal ball question.
I'm just having a look for that question.
Yep, so that's after the skill migration job connect that Lise has put in.
Oh, yeah, got it. Okay, I'm not sure what Narendra means, but the Dharma provision, so the visa, so the skills in demand visa would be valid for 4 years. So that's a temporary visa. So let's assume for argument's sake, an employer sponsoring somebody on a skills in demand 4-year 482 visa. They can do that for a 4-year period. They can then do that again for another 4-year period and again for another 4-year period. So on a temporary basis, they can continue sponsoring that person on a 482 after that 4 years, or after 2 years on that TSS visa, there's the option for them to pursue the 186 employer nomination scheme, which is a permanent residence pathway. I'm not sure if that's what Narendra's talking about or whether it's about the Dharma duration itself. I don't know if I've answered her question.
Okay. Well, look, there's some clarification there and maybe come back to you.
She's written the Dharma duration. Oh, okay.
The Dharma duration.
So what happens? Okay, so I think what Narendra is asking about there is when the Dharma has a duration of, say, 4 years under a deed of agreement, what happens after that? It's essentially a variation is made at the end of each, or basically every 12 months during that 4-year period of the, or 4 or 5 year period for the Dharma. Beyond that, it's either renegotiated or the Dharma ceases, and potentially that Dharma would not exist, and then it would default into the WA state Dharma. But that's crystal ball gazing, can't really provide any real guidance on that. But it is negotiated at the end of that deed of agreement.
Okay, thank you. Alison Williams has asked, how much of a shortage have you seen in, how much of a difference have you seen in reducing shortages as a result of these pathways, e.g. WA Dharma, Aquila and subsidy programs? Do you have any information on this available? So I'm not quite sure who's best positioned to answer that one.
I don't think we can really.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be a high level state thing to look at as far as data goes. So no, I wouldn't be able to give you an answer on that.
Yeah, other
Thanks,
than
Lise.
anecdotally, I can pretty much say I think there was some media reporting about 2 months ago that WA was the most popular state for migrants coming into Australia. So we were getting the bulk of migrants into WA. Whether that's the case currently, I don't know. But in terms of high-level data on those sort of figures, I don't have access to that other than what's published online, which is our sort of standard reporting that I've used those graphs from earlier in the presentation.
No problems, thank you. Narendra has asked, if we nominate a candidate, the nomination is approved. However, if the visa is rejected, can we still use the nomination ceiling in the labour agreement?
Okay, so if your nomination is approved, but the application is refused because the person obviously doesn't get the visa grant, that nomination is still approved for the business. So it's about the position itself. So you should be able to use that nomination to find an alternative visa applicant to fill the job.
Great. Okay, thank you. And I think Sean's comments are related to something earlier in terms of the student eligibility. So Aruni, hi, when submitting the application for Aquila, it does not give you the option to put family members' details. Is there a reason for that?
Good question. I wasn't aware of that. I might have to take that one on notice. I'm not sure why you wouldn't be able to include dependent applicants, because you can generally include dependent applicants on any visa application. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'd have to look into that one, so I'll take that one on notice.
Yep, no problems. Okay, Megan, do employees on 186 visas need to work full-time also?
So do employees on 186 visas, once they're granted the 186 visa, they're a permanent resident. They can choose to continue working with that employer. They can find alternative employment. They can work part-time, full-time, casual. It is entirely up to them. They are permanent residents of Australia, so it's their decision. Short answer is yes, they can work part-time.
Great, thank you. Bree, is there any chance that the timeframes for a 482 to be approved will come down?
We would like to think so.
Yeah.
They've blown out a bit. That's the reason I'm being a bit sort of facetious when I say that. The processing times, as many of stakeholders who are online would probably know, they have increased significantly over the last couple of months. We are hoping that they will reduce down with extra resources being applied.
Fantastic. That's what it happens when we're such a great place to live.
This is me crossing my fingers and hoping for the best.
It's all right. We won't hold you to that. We've got that in the recording, Steve, but we won't be coming back to, okay, Victoria, given the high business turnover in regions like the Pilbara, where companies may shut down or move, is it possible for an employee on a Dharma visa to change employers?
Yes, it is possible for, and Lise may want to jump in on this one on the state Dharma, but From a 482 visa holder perspective, there is the option if things don't work out and let's say an employee is terminated, dismissed, or that employee decides to leave voluntarily, they do have the option to find an alternative employer sponsor under the 482 program, and they can move to work with that employer, but they obviously have to negotiate to find another sponsor. That new sponsor has to nominate the position that they're moving into in the new business. So there is a process that's involved. They can't just sort of up and leave and go work for someone else. That new business can take them on if they are a standard business sponsor. They nominate the position and the job is the same as the one that they've left. So there is scope to do that, but it's not entirely straightforward. You can't just up and leave and go work for somebody next week.
Okay, thank you. All right, Lauren, is there any financial assistance for migrants on 482 visas for child immunisation and childcare? I suspect I know the answer to this one, but I will pose the question.
Not related to our area, no.
Yeah, tricky one for us to comment on. All I would say in terms of immunisation childcare, it's probably state jurisdiction under WA Health. Generally though, for a 482 visa holder, they're temporary visa holders, they don't have Medicare, so they would probably be looking at full price and or private health insurance to cover it. So my guess is no, but I can't confirm or deny.
Yep, okay, thank you. Narendra, no, that's okay. Multiple questions are okay. We're here to field questions. So can a Dharma 482 visa holder apply for SBS 186 after completion of 2 years of full-time employment, as the Pilbara Dharma ENS 186 eligibility is 3 years? And I hope you can understand that, because I was lost after 482.
Yeah, I think I know what Narendra is getting at there. So under the standard 482 to ENS, it's 2 years, same job, same employer, to then access the ENS 186 permanent pathway. However, under the, and I'd have to check the Pilbara Dharma, but I'm assuming you're right, under the Pilbara Dharma is 3 years as a holder of 482 to then apply for ENS. That's specific to the Pilbara Dharma. They would definitely need to do the 3 years with that same employer in the Pilbara. If they were to do that through the standard skills in demand to ENS, so 482 to 186, it would only be 2 years. So it is going to take them an extra year under that Dharma potentially.
Right. Thank you.
And that's because it's specifically written into that Dharma itself.
Thank you. Okay, Aruni. Sorry, sometimes Vivo Checks does not give the exact visa status of the spouse of student visa holders who are doing masters by coursework. Also, when they are on a bridging visa for graduate visa, the spouse's Vivo states they're the primary applicant, whereas they are the secondary applicant.
Okay, interesting technical one there. So dependents of the student visa holder are able to work irrespective of whatever the primary applicant, the student visa holder, is doing at university, master's, PhD, vet sector, etc. Dependents of the student visa holder are able to work unlimited hours, so there's no restriction. That restriction is only on the primary student visa holder. And where Vivo states they're the primary applicant, not sure on that one. It's probably because whilst they're dependent on the TGV, temporary graduate visa, they're probably the primary applicant for the bridging visa potentially, but I'm not exactly sure why that would come up like that. But bottom line is dependents of student visa holders are able to work unlimited hours.
Okay, thank you. Hopefully that answers you, Aruni. Then Colm, we have an existing EBA with the unions for aged care. Do we still need to get the MOU from them?
Yes, Colm, my understanding is, yeah, you will need to speak to the unions about the MOU through them in order to then access a KELA if you're not accessing a KELA already. So if you've already had that MOU done and you're talking to our labour agreement section about a labour agreement, great, you've done it. If not, I would suggest talk to the unions as a first step.
Okay, and I don't think Steve's going to
Noted.
comment on the process.
Yeah, I note that you said it's interesting to negotiate with unions. I
So
will make no comment.
Yep, no, we'll leave that one. Sorry to be back. Any comment on the above? Oh,
You go for John.
oh, I can't. How do
There
I
you go.
calculate my employment duration? So what they've highlighted, I think, is to satisfy the 2-year employment requirement, part-time work done in nominated occupation can be prorated. This means that for those in part-time roles, the total hours worked must equate to what would be expected to be a full-time position over a 2-year period. Does that?
That's probably not something that I can comment on specifically in this forum. That's a little bit technical and probably needs advice from migration agent Gideon. I'm not sure if you have a migration agent, but I'd say if you do, probably a question for them, and I might take that on notice and do a bit of research in the background.
Fantastic. Thanks, Steve. Okay. Any other questions? We do have 10 minutes up our sleeve, but if there are no more questions, then we are very happy to give people 10 minutes back into their day. Any more? Thank you, Ricky.
Thanks, Ricky, and hopefully I wasn't offensive to unions. I am a public servant and am completely objective.
Absolutely, and that's why we also left that question. Okay, Jodie, I noticed you popped up.
I did. Hi, all. What I thought I might do just to help everyone is when you send out the other PowerPoints, I have information as well, just if there is anyone online who is a registered health practitioner or has a family member that is, I'll send that through and then you can forward that out to anybody who's interested in receiving it.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Jodie, and thank
Pleasure.
you for being online, ready to answer any questions. Okay, I don't think we've got any more questions. Tim has just popped some additional information up online, so thank you very much for that, Tim. And the only feedbacks we've had is that, yeah, it's been a great webinar. So that's down to our presenters. So thank you very much, Lise and Steve. Really appreciate your time, your insights and fielding the questions. And as mentioned, we will share Lisa's presentation, and Steve, we will share the sheets with the barcode on them, and obviously make the recording available online as well. So thank you everyone for attending. Hopefully you found it of use, and as we have stated previously, these webinars are something that we're hoping to continue as a training council, and if there are topics of particular interest that you think we could provide additional information on, then please don't hesitate to reach out to Community Skills. And you've now got 9 minutes back in your day. So thank you very much for your time, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you.
Thanks, Caroline.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you.
Bye.